Chavre, how are you? I hope everyone is gesund, stark und freilich, begashmis und beruchnis. I hope everyone is healthy, strong and happy physically and spiritually. We're standing now, Erev Rosh Hashanah Tov Shin Pei Hey. And we're going to speak a thought for the week. And this Shabbos is Parashas Hazinu. And we're going to speak in Mitzvah Hashem, the connection from Parashas Hazinu with Rosh Hashanah. As Chassidus explains, Rosh Hashanah is called Rosh Hashanah, not Tchilas Hashanah. It's called the head of the year, not the beginning of the year, because it's like a head of a body which contains the energy. It's the nerve system, the control center of everything that happens with the rest of the body. So too, the holiday, the Yom Tov of Rosh Hashanah, has an impact over the entire year. So therefore, the way we conduct ourselves and we tune in and we absorb what is happening on Rosh Hashanah has an impact for the whole year. And it could be that on a certain level, Rosh Hashanah is the most important day of the year and the most important days of the year. So obviously, those are the days that we most should be involved, to be a part of it, to let it impact and influence the whole entire year, coming year, in a positive way. But first, as usual, since the war started, we added to giving tzedakah. Tzedakah brings Mashiach. So here we have tzedakah. Right now, as you all know, our boys, our brothers and sisters went into Lebanon. So we really need a Yeshua. Mashiach should come now. We're going to start with a prayer after we get tzedakah, and this is also going to be a focus of the talk today. And this is, like we said last week, a pasuk from Kapitel Chav Zayin. We're saying L'David Hashem Oiri every single day in the month of Elul and throughout Tishrei. So one of the psukim in Kapitel Chav Zayin is the pasuk Dalid, which goes, Acha shoalti meis adinoi oisa vakesh shifti beis adoinoi kol yimei lachs b'neim adinoi levake becholoi. One thing I ask of Hashem, it do I seek, that I may dwell in the house of Hashem all the days of my life, to behold the pleasantness of Hashem and to study in the sanctuary. There's a sikha from the Rabbi, and according to Chassidus, that says, what does it mean, Achas Sha'alti? There's only one thing that I ask. And according to Chassidus, Achas Sha'alti means, it's talking about the Yechidah Shebenefesh. The highest level of the Nefesh Alikis is called the Yechidah, the core of the core, the essence of the essence. And this is what the request is, that I should reveal that level in myself, that Yechidah in me, which is Yechidah Liyachtoch, the core of the core, the essence of the essence in me, which connects with the very essence and Atzmos of Hashem. And that's what the truth is, that the whole Avodah of the month of Elul and the month of Tishrei, it's all escalation. Escalation in revealing deeper levels of my godly soul and sustaining it, and the way we bring it out during these months has an impact in the rest of the year. So we say, Acha Shalti, my only request is, Shifti beveis Hashem kol yemei chayai. In other words, to live, learn Torah, be spiritual, live a life of higher values, connecting to Hashem. So there's a story that happened with the Rebbe and Rabbi Majeski. And first I'll say a story that happened that he says, and then I'll tell you a story that I witnessed from one of my mashpiyim. Rabbi Majeski said that he had Yechidus with the Rebbe when he had Bar Mitzvah, and the custom usually was when a Baruch Bar Mitzvah went into Yechidus with the Rebbe would ask him the questions on his pilpul, what he's going to speak in Nigla, and he would also sometimes ask him questions about the Maimer. In Rabbi Majeski's case, the Rebbe asked him, "No, are you going to chazer a Maimer?" He said, yes. So then the Rebbe told him, okay, so start chazering it. So it was unusual that he asked the Bacher of the Bar Mitzvah to start chazering the Maimer right then and there. Anyways, he started Chazan the Maimer, and at the beginning of the Bar Mitzvah Maimer it says, a quote from a Medrash, we want to learn Torah day and by night, but we don't have time. And the Eibishter said, Kaimu mitzvahs tefillin, put on tefillin, malani aleichem, and I will consider it as if you learn Torah by day and by night. So as he was chazering this, he was repeating this, the Rebbe stopped him, and the Rebbe continued with the tone of the Maimer, but you don't have any worries about earning a livelihood because you're a young child of 13 years old, your parents take care of everything. So, you could toil and Torah by day and by night. You can't make do that the Eibishter will consider it just by putting on tefillin will be enough, as if you learn Torah by day and by night. So this is similar to this verse that we're talking about. We say, Achas sha'alti me'es Hashem, shifti be'es Hashem kol yimei chayai. It's like reitzin on a liga by Torah by Yom V'Layla. We're saying, the only thing I would like is to sit and learn and daven all day. So, that's the question. Are you someone who has the time or more time to do that or not? So you have to ask yourself seriously if this is a real, true, honest request. So the story that I wanted to say also was, when I was a bacha in Morristown, this is either 79 or 80, so my mashpia was a Melech Tzibur, and his son had bar mitzvah. And as a mashpia, was a Hasidic Jew, he celebrated the bar mitzvah, besides for the family affair and celebration, he made a farbrengen, a Hasidic farbrengen, with his Talmidim. And the bar mitzvah bacha was sitting right next to him, and he told his son to chazer the maimer, and the son chazer the maimer. Right after the son chazer the maimer, they sang the niggin, and then he said, you just chazer the maimer that you would like to learn Torah by Tag Manach. News was emes. Stakaze. Is that taka true? So this was a lesson for all of us sitting over there, that's the agenda. That's the aspiration. That's the goal. That's what we're aiming for. Everyone taka. We have to know that that's what it's all about. That we want to do that, and then we have to live our life in a way that expresses that desire. That it's not just wishful thinking, but we're actually doing something about it. And now, let's get to Rosh Hashanah and the Parsha Shavua. The truth is, this Rosh Hashanah is a very awkward sort of feeling, which the only time I remember a similar sort of feeling was the year of COVID. Rosh Hashanah, Tafshin, Pei Aleph, after we had experienced everything that happened Purim and Pesach, and the world had experienced lockdown, it became deserted. And I remember thinking then that in a way, going into Rosh Hashanah, we've already experienced the lesson of Rosh Hashanah, in a certain sense. What's Rosh Hashanah? Bichlal, those that study Chassidus, everyone knows the famous vert that Rabbi Yashber Soloveitchik said. We're not going to go into the whole story now, it's very well known, that when he was a young child, he had a Melamed, and the Melamed was a Chabad Chosid. And this Chabad Chosid used to smuggle into the learning of the Gemara very often concepts of Chassidus, and they would learn sometimes the Sefer Likutei Torah of the Alter Rebbe, Chassidus Chabad. And Rabbi Soloveitchik spoke many, many times fondly how after he learned what the Alter Rebbe explains what Rosh Hashanah is, he could never forget it. And it was a paradigm shift. It changed his whole outlook on Rosh Hashanah. What's Rosh Hashanah? Some people look at Rosh Hashanah as renewing the insurance policy. So, it's another year. It's a day of judgment. You want to make sure the insurance policy is renewed, and you're davening for gesund, for parnasa, for nachas, for simcha, etc., which is as it should be, because you're acknowledging that only Hashem is the one who has control. And that's what it's about. But the problem, I don't want to call it a problem, is that if we look at it in such a way, then it's about me primarily. For me to further my aims and my goals, I want to make sure that I'm on good terms with Hashem. But then Rabbi Soloveitchik said, when you learn in Likutei Torah, that what's Rosh Hashanah? Rosh Hashanah is Hachtoras HaMelech. It's the coronation of the king. It's a whole different thing. It's about me pledging allegiance and loyalty to the king and proclaiming and looking deep inside of myself to see if my level of service and attachment and bonding is proper or not. So it's a whole different emphasis. That's what Rabbi Soloveitchik said. So now, when we talk about Rosh Hashanah, we say in davening, "V'yeda kol pol ki ata be'altei, v'yoven kol yitzur ki ata yitzartei." It's about a consciousness, an awareness about what does it mean when we say HaMelech, that the Eibishter is the king, and Melech Alohelam Kulei Bichveidecha. That means that the entire world is permeated both with a consciousness that there's a ruler, there's a king, and the king's presence is felt throughout his entire kingdom, and that everything should be in accordance with his will, and that it's evident throughout the whole kingdom. So this year, Hashem Yirachem, after October 7th of last year, Simchas Torah, I don't think there's a person that is stupid enough to think, foolish enough to think, that we are in control. We saw Nebuch what happened, and we shouldn't have to be reminded in such bitter ways that with all the armies, with all the strength, with all the technology, with all your brains, if Hashem has a decree, then He is the one, and only He is the one who is running the show, and is in control, and is the power, and is the force of everything that happens in this world. And nothing on this earth is the one that could fix things a certain way, guaranteed. Only Hashem. And this is one of the main ideas of Rosh Hashanah, which means Melech al ha'elam kulei bichveidecha v'yeda kol pol ki ata be'altei v'yoven kol yitzur ki ata yitzartei. So we know it already. And that's the lesson this entire year that we've seen. And the miracles that we've seen. And what it brought out also, a state of arousal, and how it ignited all the neshamas that we've seen. And it's brought out a deeper connection of His children and the Jewish nation with Hashem. So now that we're coming to Rosh Hashanah, so the truth is, this feeling now has to first be intensified with the request. In other words, the connection and the bond has to be brought out in such a way with the request that it should only be in Toiv Anirah V'Nigla. Hashem could demonstrate how He's the one that's in control through positive things, revealed positive things, miracles and wonders, that the whole world will say, wow, 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 the Jews are special, the Jews are the chosen people, because only they can be surrounded with difficulties and challenges in such a way and still overcome all these things. So with this feeling, as we go into Rosh Hashanah, the blessing that works, but this year especially, is that next year should be better than this year. We should see things only in a way of Teiv Anirah V'Nigla. So now let's go to the Parsha, and we'll see how in this week's Parsha there's a pasuk which we're going to try to say pshat, how this pasuk is teaching us to bring out our yichidush benefesh, our level of a nefesh alikis in the most deepest way. So last week the parsha ended that Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu to write the Shira of Azinu. We see that the message of Azinu, besides for the whole Torah and every single word of the Torah being something which is super important and has lessons and lessons, etc. But then there's certain parts of the Torah where we emphasize it, like underlined with the red markers, pay attention. And this is especially so because of the psukim at the end of last week's parsha, where Hashem told Moshe to write the Shira, and then he told him to put the Shira into the mouths of the people. So it's emphasized again and again how Hazinu, more than other parts of the Torah in a revealed way, is something you're meant to take to heart. And actually, before the last endings of the parsha, it says, Simu levavchem, take it to heart, pay attention, do I have your attention now? So there's a pasuk over here towards the end of Parshas Hazinu, where it says, Kiloi davar reiku mikem, talking about the Torah, that it's not a futile thing for you to carry out, ki hu chayechem, for it is your life, your source of life. And with this you will have a long life. So it seems a bit, I don't know what to say, like after Chamish Yechum, we're holding by the end of the Torah, 40 years of Farbrengens and Moshe Rabbeinu teaching, etc., etc., and Moshe Rabbeinu says, Kilei davar reiku mikem, the Torah is not empty. Come on. This is like the ABC of the ABCs of the ABCs. By now you're telling me the Torah is not empty? And then Rashi says two explanations of what it means, Kilei davar reiku mikem. Lo lechinem atem migiyim ba. It is not for nothing that you are exerting yourselves in its performance. You get much reward in it because it's your life. Okay, so one meaning is simple. If you keep the Torah, you'll be rewarded physically. And then he says, Dover Acher, another interpretation, there's nothing in the Torah that is of no significance. That if you expound it, you will not be entitled to reward for it. I don't understand 100% how Rashi writes of it. It seems to be the second pshat, as the main point is that the Torah has many layers. It's not empty. Not only it's not empty, it'll never be empty. Similar to the pshat of the Baal Shem Tov, Torah Hashem Temimah. The Torah is complete. No matter how much you take of it, there's still more and more and more. In other words, it's not only about law. There's a moral message. There's lessons. And how much you draw from it, there's still more. It's infinite. So that seems to be the second shot. And it seems to be also adding in the second shot that the more you'll expound, the more you'll draw from it, the more you'll seek inspiration and levels of depth, you get rewarded for digging out more of the pearls that are in the Torah. Okay. But it is a bit strange that we're so late in the game that this is the message. Now imagine you have a father, he brings up his children, and he's 80 years old, 90 years old, and he's writing in his tzavah, after he already brought up his children, they're all going in the right way. He tells them, keep on going in the right way because you'll be rewarded. They're going in the right way. They know that that's the basics of the basics. And also it seems to be saying, like, you should do it on Manas L'Kabel Pras in order to get reward. Okay, so maybe we could say like this, that really what Moshe Rabbeinu was saying, of course, first you have to start off at the most basic level, because we say Dibur Torah Keneged Yetzer Hara. For some people, that's the incentive. So Now let's go to the second meaning in Rashi, which is, it's a statement about the value of Torah. And it's about priorities. And that's the point. It's about priorities. Meaning to say, Torah is not just another valuable thing. Torah's value is infinite. And therefore you have to realize, like we say, shashui, like it's it's morav tuvcha, mo'ahavti teirasecha. And it's something which is infinite, which means it's the gift that never stops giving, which means, you know, we're living in this world, and people pursue things. So therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu's message is the best investment, even on an inspirational level, on a stimulating level, on an engagement level, is Torah. There's nothing as geschmack as Torah, because all the pleasures are limited, but the pleasures, the energy, the vitality, which is in the Torah, never ends. Literally. Now, take it how you want. On a physical level, the enjoyment that you'll get from it. But it's also phenomenal that it just will not dry up. The well will not dry up. The enjoyment will never stop. And there's nothing on this planet Earth that can compare to it, because everything of this world is limited. And therefore, whatever you could derive from it is limited. But Torah, which is the Eibishter, which is Ein Sof, which is unlimited and infinite, so therefore the spirit, the energy, the vitality, the force that's in the Torah has no end. And that's part of the second pshat in Rashi, that there's layers upon layers upon layers upon layers upon layers upon layers. Go for infinity instead of something finite. Okay. But I would like to suggest a third point. When the Torah over here is saying that Lo davar reiku mikem, what he's saying is that everything else is actually reik. Not only is Torah infinite and everything else is finite, but that Torah is it, and nothing else is it. And this is what the Rebbe says pshat. Everyone knows. In Kuntis Yonos Teis Achsidis, he brings out the famous story of Kusir Lepler. It's Hayoim Yoim Avov Cheshvan. The Alter Rebbe wanted to bless Kusir Lepler with long life, and Kusir Lepler said, "Aber nit mit Peirush Yoren, was Enaim Lem V'lo Yiru, and as V'lo Yishmo, Enaim Lem, as Naim Lem V'lo Yishmo, Men Zetnet can get Lechait, and Manhattan can get Lechait." The Alter Rebbe wanted to give him a blessing for long life, and he said, "But I don't want to have ears. I don't want to have the ears of the life of a peasant, which doesn't hear godliness and see godliness." And the Rebbe asked the Klutz Kasha, you know, when someone wants to give you a blessing for long life, just say Amen. No, he's not saying Amen, but he's saying, but wait, I want more. I don't want to have such a life. I want to have such a life. What do you mean? So the Rebbe learns pshat, Moeledike pshat. Rebbe Kusir Lepler was defining to the Alter Rebbe, what is the meaning of life? In other words, you have one person, he says as follows: we have Lebedikait, and the best of Lebedikait is when it's a Lebedikait which is attached to Yiddishkeit. Or there's a much deeper way. We say there's no such a thing as Lebedikait. Was heißt Lebedikait? Yiddishkeit. And the Rebbe explains that by Kusir Lepler, really this subject will take a shir by itself to explain it properly. I'm just getting to the point. By Kusir Lepler, such a feeling can only come from Yechidah Sheben Nefesh, the highest level, because in every other level of service of Hashem, it's a level of service that is defined. So let's say we talk about a certain person. He's holding by Avas Hashem, and his great quality is Avas Hashem. So then we're going to say Ava is a good quality. Love is something. The ultimate love is a love of Hashem. But love is something. And the same thing is, if we're going to categorize somebody, define somebody, we're saying his way of serving Hashem is through intellect. So we'll say intellect is something valuable. And the ultimate intellect is when your intellect is channeled towards studying Torah. But if you say that your level of service to Hashem is just essence to essence, in other words, Elikus, there's no counterpart to Elikus. There's only Elikus. Hu levadi hu ve'en zelosei. when we're talking about the level of Yechidah Shebenefesh, it's not defined in one particular way. It's defined in Yechidah Li'achdach. You're connected to the Eibishter. And there's nothing which is not as important, not as great. There's nothing else, period. That's it. And this is the pshat and the mice over there. When the Alter Rebbe said he wants to give him a blessing of life, Rebbe Kesir Lepel was saying immediately, what's life? A lakus. And the Rebbe gives an example over there about, imagine a prince who the whole definition of the prince of life is being one with his father and living a life of royalty and elevation. And tell him, I want to give you go to this prince and you tell him, I want to give you a blessing. You should have a long life in a cage with a gorilla. I want to give you a blessing for a long life living in a barn with cows. You're not going to say amen. Not only you're not going to appreciate such a blessing, you'll be disgusted by it. This is what the Rebbe says is the meaning to Kesir Lepel of life. If you don't immediately define that, what's life? A lakus. It's not that there's Lebedekeit, and on top of this Lebedekeit we have Yiddishkeit. Not a Lebedekeit is Yiddishkeit. Yiddishkeit is Lebedekeit. And this is what the Rebbe also explains when we say Moida ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayim shechzata bi nishma si b'chem l'rabba u'munasecha. People usually learn pshat that when you say Moida ani lefanecha in the morning, you're saying, thank God I'm alive. Like kol neshima neshima, every breath you take, you have to thank you, Hashem. The Rebbe says, no. The dik is over here, Moidani lefanecha melech chai v'kayim shechzata bi nishma si. You're saying, thank you, Hashem, that I'm a Yid. That's coming from Yechidah Shebenefesh. Not because of what you're doing, not because of a particular avodah you're doing, but your very identity, your existential being, your very core, nishmasi. And for that you thank Hashem. Like the famous story of the Baditchev, that it was an unbelievable joy in the morning, and somebody said, what's the joy so early in the morning? He said, what do you mean? I just said Shlei Yasani Goy. The mere fact Shlei Yasani Goy should cause you to be dancing and jumping for joy. So this is the Pshat Yeshleima. That when the pasuk is telling us over here, ki loy davar reikum mikem, ki hu chayechem. The pshat over here, ki hu chayechem, means das is the pshat gelebt. Moshe Rabbeinu over here is calling out from us that we should bring and reveal from ourselves our essential Jewishness, our Yechidah Shebenefesh, that Yiddishkeit is not something that we also do. One of the things, I do a lot of things. I play golf, I go swimming, I go to business. And I also learn Torah. And I have fixed times of study, fixed times of prayer. No. You have to look at Yiddishkeit. Ados is Lebedekeit. When you bring out your Yechidah Shebenefesh, when you're holding by a level where it's mamish achas, Sha'alti me'es Hashem. As we started today's shir with that pasuk, this is what it means over here when you say that this is Chayechem, which means that is my only real thing is, and this is what I'm focusing on. This is what my life is really about. Achas Sha'alti me'es Hashem kol yimei chayai. So this is the message, my friends. We're holding over here Erev Rosh Hashanah, the Sachakel from the entire year. First, I want to wish everyone mamish only brachas, 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 b'teiv anirev anigla. And this is the request that we have to realize. It's already very, very late, because really we could have asked another question in general about Rosh Hashanah. What does it mean that we Hashem, who's so removed, and we ask Him to be meloich on us? And the word is because we're essentially connected. That's what we have to realize. Hashem is us, we are Hashem, and the whole point of Rosh Hashanah is to bring out that magnetic connection that essential connection, that love of the Yechidah B'Nefesh. That's what it's all about. So the Eibush should help that Taka next year should be better than this year. Right now, as we speak, as we said in the beginning, the soldiers are in Lebanon. They should be victorious. B'toiv ha'nirav ha'nigla. We should see nisim gluyim mamish, mamish, mamish. And even before Rosh Hashanah, as the Tzemach Tzedek, who tonight, Erev Rosh Hashanah today, is his Yoim Holedes. The Tzemach Tzedek was the one who revealed the saying of Trach gut vet zayin gut. Think good and it'll be good. So in the schus of the Baal Yoim Holedes, the Tzemach Tzedek should be Peil Yeshua's Bekerev Haaretz, that we should Trach gut vet zayin gut, and we'll have a complete Netzachen over all adversaries and the enemies, and this should bring in the Geula Mitzvah Shlema even before Rosh Hashanah Mashiach now. Ksivich Simatei V'Lashana Tev Mesukah, posting from the Rebbe Shchuna, Zayt alle gesund, Kol Tov.